All right, guys, picking back up right where we left off. So yeah, she can take a Fisher mount plow too. So push some snow. But anyhow, so here we are looking at a good old classic IDI. I'll try to slow down so it doesn't get fuzzy. Okay, so quick, just quick little overview. I know everybody with an old Ford has some crazy wires going down. Ground, as these things start rusting out, you are chasing ground so you can get the cranking speed. So many people think it's fuel, 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 fuel. There's a lot to good batteries, good ground, and good cranking speed. It is so crucial. These motors have 22 to 1 compression. Modern day Power Stroke 17 to 1. Of course, when the turbo spools with all its boost, it blows us out of the water. But you see those guys running waste motor oil or kerosene or tranny fluid and all that. It's because we have 22 to 1 raw. Just raw compression, 22 to 1 approximately. So you go back to the Vietnam era deuces, because I was in the Army and we still had a couple sitting around. Those guys had the exact same thing. They were right there at 22 to 25 to 1 compression, but they had a dish in their piston that everything squirted into, and it was a superheated dome, and they would run on waste oil. That's what, like the Mercedes and this engine, that's what makes our engines so stinking great that they can run on veggie or transmission fluid. In fact, that's where I learned about transmission fluid was in the Guard. You take the National Guard Humvee, even though it's a Detroit 6.2 and 6.5, depending on which one you're working on, it is still a Stanadyne pump, just like we have, and Stanadyne injectors. It's an old mechanical rotary pump. So you could actually go, as far as fuel system wise, if you know your stuff, you can go work on the old ones. And that's why, being a young whippersnapper, 18, get out, this and that, I went ahead and bought myself this. So with that said, uh, it's pretty gosh darn primitive and not that fussy. So I'm going to get into a couple things. All right. So we're starting out. If you see my filter head right now, this is a 9173. That's a 6.9 filter head. I went back to the stinking basics. Get rid of that heater. Get rid of that Schrader valve. Get rid of that check valve. Even though I got the Schrader valve here, but I would know if that was leaking. And that can be filled right up with a pipe plug from a simple Ace Hardware True Value, da-da-da-da-da. But she ain't leaking because I can see that clear as day. Then, another thing I see, guys, they're checking these lines, right? These are hard lines. And so, with that said, inside there, it's a compression fitting. Much like if you were going to put a compression fitting on a bad brake line. Only, so you go to the hardware store and you get the brass one, and they have those little brass balls. Those are called olives. We have olives inside here too, but they're a rubber or a plastic. They get so hard and brittle. That's when these leak. It's called an olive in there. It's pretty much like an O-ring, but it's got a little tapered end, and it's made to crimp or compression fit. So it's called an olive. But so you got an olive there. You got an olive down there on that bad boy. You got an olive right there. And I can't remember if it's an olive or a standard beveled compression fitting down there. But so those are those. And then from here, with the basics, I guess since I showed you that primitive's the way to go. Sure, I lost my heater, but here, while we're up here, since I'm going to call this fuel induction and air induction, I already loosened this so I can pull it off. First thing you're going to notice, if you still have your factory air cleaner, when you grab this thing, it won't come out. You know why? Because you have a thing called a fuel bowl. That, a little bit of water, we don't really want that in there, but it'll be okay. You'll be surprised what this old girl can drink and handle. My fuel bowl. So you got a fuel bowl, and I think right there, see that tiny spot weld? You just go around, and there's maybe 6 or 8. You drill them, and you pop that bowl off. That thing is so stinking restrictive. So poof, all of a sudden, your air cleaner's easier to take off. Now we grab the rest like anybody else, get rid of that fuel bowl, and especially for my people with a non-turbo, this will be helpful. So you got all that going, and we're down to here. We are going to look at this fitting right here. I call this the Great Divide right here. From this line out is out. It's out. Forget about it. You don't have to worry about it. And then here, this is your line in, okay? And whatever you want to call it, the Great Wall of China. Now, that brings me to, let me get to right there. See that fitting? There's actually a check valve in that stinking thing. So if you're still hooked up factory, which brings me to here, if you have the 7.3 head, you've seen videos about how they plug the one from the number one right here, this injector right here, right by the filter housing. It usually has a double T and it loops up to another check valve. Anything bad that happens with these caps and hoses right here that run along here, these caps and hoses, if air gets in there and whatnot, if that valve is bad, it makes it back to the filter head, which is pre-pump. It's on the other side of the wall, the Great Wall of China. We don't want no air on this side. So that's, and I know I'm talking layman's term, but it makes it make more sense. I'm gonna go ahead and start a video again. I guess we're going into part 3 as far as that goes. So I'll see you again.